City Clerk, are we ready to go?
Yes, we are, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call the October 24th, 2023 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would Councilmember Allison lead us tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Biennium,
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque,
Here.
Councilmember Paddock.
Councilmember Paddock advised us at the last meeting that he had a work conflict tonight and cannot make it. So can we have a motion to excuse?
Motion to excuse.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, audience communication. Anything on the agenda or not on the agenda? I'll start in chambers. Anyone like to address the council before our public hearings? Seeing no one. Anyone online like to address the council? Okay, we'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. We'll move on to our presentations with the award that Brian will never win, the Great Garden Awards. Who's taking this one?
Jeanne is. I'm taking this. Sort of. I just wanted to begin by just telling you what the definition of the work that the Arts and Beautification Board is assigned to for the city. Duties and responsibilities. Serve as an advisory board to the city council on matters regarding special events and projects to enhance the aesthetics and beauty within the city of Mill Creek. And I think it's kind of nice to hear what that formal definition is sometimes as we sort through projects and present these kind of opportunities. When I've been on this committee for probably 6 years now, and just on a personal note, I'd like to say to you that when I began, Matt Buchanan was the chair of our committee. And at the time that I did my first Great Garden Award tour, I said to Matt, well, what am I supposed to do? How will I know? And he said, you'll know it will just knock your socks off. And that was it for my direction. And that it wasn't a good direction, and he was right. But since then, I've acquired a vocabulary of landscape design terms with definitions. Should any of you ever want to be able to talk cogently on these topics? Because at that first meeting when we presented our gardens, they were presented up here on the screen, and people actually stood and talked using landscape vocabulary to describe why they chose. And I went, whoa, I've got to get smarter about this. I've got to develop some vocabulary. So I have things for new board members to study. All right. Great Garden Awards process. A map of Mill Creek was broken into 7 geographic zones. Each A and B board member was given 1 or more zones to tour. And then each of us took 2 or 3 gardens per zone and were presented them to the board. 12 gardens altogether were selected, plus 1 from each zone. 12 were selected, 1 from each zone, plus 5 at large. Members delivered signs and award letters to each of the addresses, and a letter was mailed to each address requesting more information. 9 recipients responded and chose to participate, and some are here with us this evening. I've seen some that I presented. All right. Award criteria. And I have to say that presenting the awards is the best thing. When you go out to people's houses and surprise them, they are so proud and so happy and so delighted generally to get the awards that it's wonderful to spend time with them. I also have to say, I take my husband along with me, and a lot of times he does the driving while I look at the gardens, and he just loves that project. stopping to get all of the sign numbers and the curb numbers and to let me take photos, but he's a good sport. And he gets to go with me when I do awards. Award criteria: Great Gardens exhibit impressive design, creativity, diversity, and beauty. All great gardens demonstrate the time and the love the homeowners dedicate to caring for their gardens and beautifying our community. And it truly is hard to choose many times. Awards. Recipients will exchange their temporary yard sign for a permanent award. Where'd that go? Oh. I thought it was going to be tucked right down there. Thank you. That's all right. This is the permanent award that they will exchange their signs for. And thank you, Jody, for choosing this beautiful design and the inscription. So those people that couldn't be here tonight will get their award at a later date. We'll hand deliver them probably. Now, for the good part, these are the Great Garden Award recipients for this year. Janet and Ronald Pickering, River Crossing. Well, right there, I met the two of them. I got to give their award out this year. John and Tanya Slonecker in Evergreen. They couldn't be here tonight, but I remember the garden because it's one I chose also. Katie and Monty Kittner in Vine Maple. You're in Holly?
Yeah.
You're my neighbor. I don't know you. But you should, I'm third house on the right when you go in.
Thanks for you.
Okay. Well. Oh, well, that's great. All right. So you're not in Vine Maple. Is that right? Okay. All right. How about Matt and Danielle Shepley? Are you in Vine Maple?
Yeah.
Okay, where are you? There you are. All right, you got to roll with it. Barbara and Bruce Marshland in Huckleberry. Look at all the people who came tonight. That's wonderful. Congratulations. Sue and Mario Taylor, Douglas Fir. There you are. All right, congratulations. Paris and Daniel Scott in the Highlands, right here. And I met them because I gave them their award and it was so much fun. It was really fun. And they both wore their cougar sweatshirts. They put it on. Yeah, I know it. I know we're big Husky fans. Heather and Jay Nelson from Brighton. All right, congratulations. Jeff and Barbara Seek, Parkside. No, they'll get their award later. All right, so a huge thanks to all the people who helped with the awards this year and all of you who made our community so much more beautiful. Thank you.
Jody, do you want to herd us for some pictures?
So yeah, we'd love to have all of the recipients come up. We're gonna take a picture with you and the Arts and Beautification.
So let's move off to the side and then we'll go in the second picture.
Did you want to?
This. You're right there.
Did you want them to have their awards now or? Ron, I get why you like to work. I'll do my rate.
All right, we have to try and squeeze it together. Maybe hold your thoughts and then like that. It was here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
No, he was.
You made it, yeah, just for the picture.
It's a lot of work
All right,
to maintain those.
everybody ready? Yeah, yeah. All right. On three. 1, 2, 3. Someone's gonna blink, so I take quite a few.
Take a good looking group.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Now. Should we have council going from behind on? Yeah, let's go behind and stand. There you go.
They won't see everybody.
What about if we're short?
Stand at the table.
I'm scared.
I even wore my tall boots. Right here?
Yeah, stay right.
I wore my boots too that were tall, just in case. Just in case, 5 foot of.
I can see.
Can you see our little heads?
Yeah.
There you go, perfect.
Jeanne.
Okay.
No, you're good. I can see everybody.
Everybody ready again on 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay for the entire council meeting or you're welcome
That is so. Must have been a recommendation that came from you. I didn't even know. Yeah, like you said. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, thanks. That's the other person. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, see you, man. Have a good one. I'll sit over there.
That's why I took a picture before. This is what council meetings look like.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Okay, now we get to the fun stuff. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the public hearing related to the 2024 property tax levy. Director of Finance Irmina Lumbad will be presenting. The hearing will be conducted under the rules for legislative public hearings set forth in Resolution 2021-604. We adopted these rules as part of our work on the governance manual. I will briefly summarize the procedures for the public hearing. First, we'll receive a brief staff report on the proposed amendments to the public records rules. Following the staff report and responses to any questions that council may have, I will ask for a motion to open the public hearing. Next, assuming that there is a motion, a second, and an affirmative vote, we will open the public hearing. The hearing will last up to 1 hour unless council votes to authorize additional time. Persons wishing to testify who are present at council chamber shall sign in on this sign-in sheet and will be called in the order in which they. Persons participating online will be given an opportunity to testify by raising their hands, and I will call on them. Each person's testimony is limited to 3 minutes. When all who ask to speak have completed their testimony or the allotted 1 hour time limit has expired, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Following the completion of the public hearing, council will then discuss and take action the resolution adopting the amendments to the public records rules. Are there any questions on the procedure? Hearing none, if staff could start with a presentation, Finance Director.
Hello.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council, also to staff and to the audience here in council chamber, as well as those joining us virtually. I am presenting the initial public hearing for the 2024 regular property tax levy. For our timeline, for our agenda, we are going through the timeline, review a little bit of the background. Also the general fund forecast, the 2023 regular property tax levy,
the 2024 regular property tax levy options, and then we'll open it up for a public hearing. For our timeline, this is, we've started with a series of discussions. We had 2 study sessions prior to this first public hearing. The first one was on October 3 with a study session relating to the mid-biennium review. On October 10, we did 2 study sessions relating to the property taxes for 2024 and the 2023-2028 CIP amendment. And currently today, we are going to be hearing we're going to be having the public hearings for 3 items: the mid-biennium modifications, the 2024 property tax revenue, 2023-2028 CIP amendment. And then we're going to hold the final public hearing on November 7 for the 3 items, with the final adoption of the 3 ordinances on November 14. And then we are required to provide the certification for the property taxes to Snohomish County on or before November 30. The public notice on these 3 public hearing items have been published in the Daily Herald on October 17. So as a background, we have 2 governing provisions from the revised Code of the State of Washington. And these are the RCW 84.52.020, which requires us to certify and file the budget or estimates of amounts to be raised by taxation. And then RCW 84.55.120, which requires us to hold a public hearing prior to the filing of the property tax levy with the county. And just as a reminder, the public hearing provides the opportunity to our constituents to provide public input on the proposed matter before council. So we have 3 property tax components. We have the first one, which is the levy amount, and that's the total tax to be raised. And then we also have the assessed value, which is the true and fair value of the property. And then we come up with a levy rate, which is the amount, it's a uniform amount that that individual property owners owes, which is expressed in dollar per 1,000 AV. And so the calculation is the levy rate would be equal to the levy amount, which is the total tax that we will raise, divided by the assessed value, divided by 1,000. And so the levy rate, which is specifically this component right here, is the aggregate citywide assessed valuation. Okay, so over the years from 2017 to 2023, this column right here, which is the levy rate per 1,000 AV, is consistently, consistently declining, except for, despite the levy amount going up, except for 2023. And then our assessed value over the years are also going up, and significantly so in 2023, when our assessed value jumped by 35%. In 2023, the drop of the levy rate per 1,000 AV from 1.2890 to 0.6194 reflects the city's annexation of the fire and EMS services to South Snohomish County Fire and Rescue Authority as approved by voters during the April 2022 special elections. This graph, the data was sourced from the Snohomish County Assessor's Office, and it shows the 2021 to 2023 property tax distribution among the various taxing agencies. So for our district, we have Snohomish County, City of Mill Creek, we have Snohomish Library, South Snohomish County Fire and Rescue. We also have Central Puget Sound Regional Transit Authority, the school district, and the state school. And in 2023, the total average rate per 1,000 was about $8.16, and about $8, about a little over 67% of it, or $5.51, was going to the schools, which is the state school and the school district between. So that's the green and the blue one right here. And the city of Mill Creek was only getting 0.62 cents of the total tax rate for that year. And the 1.08 is going to Snohomish County Fire and Rescue. Now compared back to the 2022 where we had $1.64, but that was in combination with the fire and EMS. Okay, and then lastly, to review what our levy rate and highest lawful levy this year. Our assessed valuation for 2023 was at about $6.8 billion. That's equivalent to 6.8 of aggregate citywide assessed valuation. Based off of that, the the council authorized a 4.2 million levy amount, and the rate, the effective rate, the uniform rate applicable to all the property owners was 0.6247. And that is about $624.69 for a homeowner with assessed value of $1 million. And then our highest lawful levy in 2023 came up to 6.7 million. But since we only levied 4.2 million, we have a bank capacity of $2,523,144. And now moving on to just again reviewing our general fund forecast. This column right here to the left depicts our forecasted revenues, which is going to be $23.9 million for the biennium, and 75%, about 75% of it are from taxes, sales tax and regular property taxes. And so this indicates that our sales tax is our highest source of revenue at 39%. And that indicates that we're very sensitive to economic swings. And 25% of the remaining revenues coming from fees like our charges for goods and services, our fines and penalties, our investment earnings, our intergovernmental revenues and licenses and permits, those make up only 25% of our sources. And of all the revenue sources that we have, the property taxes allows the legislative body of a taxing agency some flexibility annually to adjust the amount accordingly, subject to the restrictions and following strict process, which is what we're following now. And then on the right-hand side, we have our graph for forecasted expenditures for the general fund at 23.4 million. And this is presented to you by department. And on this graph, it emphasizes the council priorities of where we spend our money. And so here it shows that the council's priority is public safety, public works, as well as our parks. Combined total, they make about 58% of our budget. And then the rest of it are for other operations and other in our overhead departments. Now, if we compare them side by side, this shows that we would need 100% of our sales tax plus about 25% of our property taxes to fund our police department. And we would need the rest of the property taxes, the remaining 75 or 76%, to fund the public works department, parks, finance, and about 50% of our city manager's office. And then the rest of our sources, which are fees and intergovernmental transfers, the rest of the 25% funds the rest of our operating departments, which is equivalent to about 5.5 million. So if, based on the forecast, we started the year with a beginning fund reserve of 9 million. If our forecast holds true, we will have an ending balance of about 9.5 million at the end of December 31 of 2024. And just as a reminder, per section 12 of our financial management policy, the general fund reserve requires that 15% of the general fund budgeted for the ensuing biennium. The general fund reserve should be equal to 15% of the general fund budgeted revenue for the ensuing biennium. And so for 2024, excuse me, 23-24, the reserve requirement is about 3.5 million. And now moving on to our 2024 assessed value. The preliminary assessed value citywide provided by Snohomish County Assessor's Office, the aggregate for the city is dropped by 389 million or 5.75 from about 6.8 million to now about 6.4 million. Now, since we established that one of the three components, the assessed value is one of the three components in establishing property taxes. If the assessed valuation drops, the levy rate is affected, and if it drops, the levy rate per thousand is going to go up slightly by 0.0381 or 6.10%. And the impact to the property owner with a home value of $1 million is about $38 more if nothing else changes. Now let's look at some sensitivity or different scenarios. If, say, for instance, a home owner in 2023 receives a 10% decrease in their home value assessment from $1 million to now 900,000, their assessed value, or excuse me, their property tax dollars that's due to us would drop from 624.69 cents to 596.49 cents. That's a drop of about $28. If the home value of a property owner does not change year over year, their property tax amount is going to go up from 624.69 to about 662.77 cents. About 6.10% increase. Now, if the homeowner got an increased assessed value of 10% from 1 million to 1.1 million, their property tax would go up from 624.69 to 729.05. That's about a 16.7% increase. All right, so at the October 10 study session, council directed staff to drop option C, which is a 1% increase plus the bank capacity plus the add-ons. So today we're just reviewing two options, but I'm going to compare that for 2023 for your perspective. Okay, so option A is 0% increase plus the add-ons. The add-ons are for the new construction as well as for the refund. If we put that on, we would increase the levy amount from 4.2 million to 4.3 million. That's an additional $70,000. And the levy rate would go up from 0.6247 to 0.6737, which is about under a nickel, about an 8% increase. And so the property owner with $1 million home value would have an impact of $673.74. Option B was a 1% increase plus the add-ons. And to qualify, the 1% increase is a 1% increase over the levy amount from 2023, which is only 42,000. Again, plus the new construction, plus the refund will provide an additional 112,000 in revenue. The levy rate will increase from 0.6247 to 0.6804. And that's a 0.0557 rate increase, or about 9%, which would, again, a property owner with a home value of $1 million would have an increase from $624.69 to $680.37. Factors that council might consider for setting the levy amount are increasing costs related to service level improvements and unanticipated cost. Also consider decreasing revenues as we look forward for sales tax and our investment earnings and ARPA funds. which are expected to be depleted, fully spent by, or excuse me, projected to be about about over 3 million spent by the end of 2024. And so for our next steps, we will have the public hearing tonight, and then followed with the final public hearing on November 7th, and obtain final direction from council, and then come back on November 14 for the final adoption of the ordinance. And then on by or before November 30, we are to submit the certified forms to Snohomish County Assessor's Office. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Irmina. Any questions? And just to clarify for the record, I had a bum script. As we just heard, we're here for the 2024 property tax levy, not proposed amendments to the public records rules. And we will not be taking action at the end of the public hearing tonight. As Irmina said, we'll be taking action on November 7th. So apologize, I hadn't read the script ahead of time to catch those mistakes. So do I have if there's no questions, do I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will now open the public hearing at 6:31 PM and we'll start in chambers. Do we have anyone signed up to testify in chambers? Is there anyone not signed up that would like to testify? Seeing a negative nod of heads, is there anyone online who would like to testify? I see the one person shaking their heads no. Okay. Hearing, okay, I guess that we can, do I have a motion in a second then to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The hearing is closed at 6:32 PM. That was a quick one. Again, we'll be having more discussion on the 7th. Is there any comments anyone wanted to make? Councilmember Duque?
It was more a note about the presentation in case this is what gets used again. For the decreasing revenues, you mentioned ARPA, but I know from last week, we didn't want to include that as part of a depleting revenue, since it's not something that was planned for forever. Like we knew it was going to go away. And I think there's a little bit of negativity when you, at least I for example, when it came to the schools, when they talked about how they were losing funding, or, there's just some sensitivity about how that's not a decreasing revenue. It's no longer around. So maybe it needs to be its own thing. Or was that in reference to the money that we were getting from it being, I don't know why my interest, thank you. I was like,
Investment income.
Yes, thank you. Is that why that was listed there for that? So then if it could just say ARPA investment income on that slide, if that's the slide that we see again, or if it's updated to be saved as part of our minutes, because I think it's important, because if someone reads it quickly, they'll be like, why did the city think we would have this forever? Which we all know we do not, and that was not our plan. Thank you.
Councilmember Steckler.
Just a few comments that I wanted to make. When we, because I've been involved with the finance committees and taking a look at a lot of these numbers, it's a lot of information to look at, and it can boggle you. All of the information boggled me, but as I kept looking at it, some of the things that I kept kind of surprised me when I think of what a small percentage property tax is to the city of Mill Creek to fund its operations, and yet you see, well, 36% of our revenues to fund the city comes from property tax. That's a big percentage, but a small number of income. And what is even more frightening to me, that's the only guaranteed number we have. That's the only guaranteed number we have. Everything else is a projection. It's an assumption. Even the sales tax number is an assumption. We hope it'll be there, but we all know that the finance assumption is that interest rates are not going to go down probably till the next election, November of next year. So it's going to be kind of a scary year, and a lot of people are, may not be wanting to spend as much as they have. Probably, hopefully they will, but it's not going to be a gangbuster year by any means. So sales tax is not something to hang your hat on. If it is a big number, well, that's a surprise and everybody will be happy, but don't count on it. And all the other numbers, we have seen steady declines for us, and they haven't been big numbers for us to hang our hat on too. The other thing that we can also count on is it's costing more to run a city. The cost for of employees, we've done a great job. City, not me. City has done a great job, chief, bringing back the police department to a level of employment that has given us some safety and some security. And thank you the city for supporting him in his efforts. And that's a cost. That's a cost that's going to just continue to grow. And we have to be prepared for that. I read an article in the paper just today. What's the number one career choice? Don't go into tech anymore. Don't become a computer services person. Become a civil engineer and have the horrible life that Mike Todd has trying to find civil engineers. They've got 4 jobs guaranteed before they even complete their last year of college. That's the career that nobody went after for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And now they're gangbusters. Even the city of Seattle can't complete a lot of their projects. So do you think it's going to be cheaper and easier to hire those people? No. And we're not completing our projects because we can't hire the civil engineers. So everything that I'm seeing out there is it's going to be really hard to run a city for anybody, not just us, for any city. And it's not going to be super duper expensive, but it's not going to get cheaper and easier. So I look at all of that, and I don't want to suggest that we have gangbuster increases in property tax, but I look at that first option of saying, hey, why don't we just look at what you call it, refunds and I'm sorry, what was the other one? Construction. Yeah, again, estimates, hopes, prayers that we might get those 2 numbers. Those aren't guaranteed. So it's something that we really need to be thinking about on the council when we come back to discuss this again. I hope I make these comments so if citizens want to come back to us in the next meeting and rebuke my statements and ask some pointed questions, feel free, because I think we should have an open discussion about this, and let's talk about it, because it is a very emotional. I'm with you too. I pay taxes too, and it's emotional for me to think about. But it's very important that we don't cut ourselves short. Sorry to talk so much, and I'm done.
Mayor Pro Tem? Oh, it still looks like your hand is up. Must be some, the cursor on the screen is over your name. It looks like your hand is up.
Sorry.
I'm good,
thank you.
Councilmember Cavallari?
Thanks, Mayor. Just I guess a quick comment regarding optics on the presentation. Good presentation, by the way. We show that the law enforcement side and the public works side always eats up probably the largest portion of a city's budget. But I don't want folks maybe seeing this for the first time to get scared and say, what are these people in Mill Creek doing? Giving those cops all that money and building new parks when they should be saving for a rainy day. That's normal, right? That's normal for cities and counties and state. That's normal budgets. So we're not spending these crazy dollars or doing these crazy sorts of projects and paying these crazy wages. That's just generally what the numbers look like in any city.
That would be true. Some cities may have their own parks department, and so that might have a different slice, and others agencies might have and I was going to say transportation or sewer water, but that would be not be applicable because those are not general funded programs or functions. The slide that I depicted only reflects municipal functions that are funded by all general unrestricted funds. And so because it's municipal function, that would be pretty much the depiction of where we spend our general fund dollars. Yes.
Irmina, could you clarify something? In the last 5 years, it seems like we've always had a general fund reserve of 6.5 to 7.5, and it's up at 9.5. Is that unspent ARPA dollars that is?
No.
But what's driving the increase in the reserve? I mean, it's a good thing, but what's driving it?
It is, but remember that we still have not concluded the police department's guild. So we have some savings from 2022, at the end of 2022. that got wrapped into our fund reserve right now, but we're not anticipating, or we're not putting any forecast because we don't know what that
Right,
number is.
okay. Okay, okay, other questions or comments before we move on to the next hearing? Okay, that brings us to item 7B. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing related to the 2023-2024 Biennium budget amendments. Director of Finance, please present a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. So moving on this item, the agenda would include a review of our timeline, our background, the forecast for revenues and expenditures, the proposed budget modifications, and then we'll open it up for the public hearing. So our timeline is pretty much the same as what I've shown you earlier in the public hearing for the regular property taxes. So I'm going to skip this one.
But can you go back real quick? Where there is a different timeline, we're not going to take action on this item until the 14th as opposed to the 7th.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. The 14th will be when we're going to come back for the final adoptions of the 3 items of public hearing tonight. All right, so for our governing policies, we have revised Code of Washington 35A.34.130 and Milk Creek Municipal Code 2.060, which prescribe the timing manner by which the budget review and modifications of fiscal year budget shall be conducted and authorized. And ordinance number 2022.886, which was adopted in November of 2022, was effectively adopting the 2023-2024 budget. The adopted budget was based on the following council priorities. It was on focus on clean, safe, and well-maintained city, emphasize on rebuilding after COVID, keep property taxes flat, and generate additional revenue for additional needs, cost management, hold expenses and improve service levels, resume pre-COVID city operation levels, increase or expand the following items, which is the recreation program, the passport revenue, law enforcement services, city maintenance operations, and then lastly, to evaluate capacity needs and citywide staffing. So from the time that council adopted the budget to right around September, certain assumptions have changed. Our economic indicators have changed. For instance, the CPI national was 6.4 in December of 2022. It dropped down to 3.7 in August of 2023, with the CPI for Seattle metro area, of course, trending higher at 8.4 in December of 2022, and it is now down to 5.4% in August of 2023. Maybe. And then our federal funds rate, which is the cost of money, was at 4.5% in December of 2022. It is now up from up to 5.25 to 5.5% in September of 2023. Our retail gas at the pump also increased. It was $3.44 per gallon in 2021. It increased to about 4.48 per gallon in 2023. We also have the state passing the 2023-2025 budget, which includes several allocations for our CPI budget, projects. And also City Council adopted 5 resolutions in the last months with deferred budget amendments, which are now included in the proposed budget modifications. We also have several service contract rate notifications. For instance, the AWC, which provides for our health benefit, they gave us notice that our medical health benefits rates are going to go up by 4% in 2024. WCIA, which provides our general liability, property insurance, including cyber coverage. Notified us of a 25% increase in 2024, plus or minus 15% for experience. Snohomish 911 would increase by 4.62% from 251,000 to our assessment would be about 276,000 in 24. Also stormwater monitoring would go up. The preliminary number that we receive is going to go up from 9,336 to about 13,337 in 2024. Also, our staffing levels have changed since then. We 2023 we adopted or you authorized 29 full-time equivalent positions, of which 5 are still vacant. But we're moving forward with filling those positions soon. And so, and also as a note that the staffing levels that we adopted in 2023-24 are not yet at the same level pre-pandemic. And so considering those factors, this is the same graph that you saw earlier, which says, or which forecasts our general fund revenues ending at 23.9 million. And the property taxes that you see here, I'm going to go down to sales and use tax. The 9.3 million projection here includes only about a 2.4% increase of our sales tax, because the projection from the state says that that's where they're going to see the CPI would be.
2.4% increase in the revenues, not in the sales tax itself.
Right, correct. Yes. And the regular property taxes, this includes or assumes a 4.2 million plus new construction about 70,000 in 2024. So we're not including any increases yet. We don't know what that, you haven't decided on that yet. And then our charges for goods and services is only about 2.1 million. This reflects a decline of 379,000 from passport fees and photos. Law enforcement, because of the SRO, the second position has not been filled. Other development fees and our facility rentals and recreation fees are down. However, in this miscellaneous fines, penalties and transfers of 1.6 million. This is primarily reflects the higher than expected investment earnings, which is projected to remain above 5% in 2023, and it's going to go down to about 4% in 2024.
Which is still good.
Yeah. It also includes the transfers of the ARPA investment earnings that are unrestricted, and the leasehold excise tax of about 34,000, which is also unrestricted, that we're proposing to now account for in the general fund as opposed to the City Hall North Fund. Okay, the general fund expenditures is forecasted to be 23.4 million, with salaries, which comprises of wages of about 10 million, overtime of 1.4 million, and benefits of about 3 million. This makes in total about 14.9 million, or about 64% of the general fund expenditures. The maintenance operations comprises of professional services, 7.4 million, plus supplies of under 500,000. That makes up about 34%. And then we have a little bit of transfer here of 91,000, which is for the equipment replacement funding. And that makes up about 3% of the expenditures. So this slide again, you've seen this earlier, and it's the same information, which shows that property taxes and sales tax make up about 75% of our revenue sources, and the rest are from fees, intergovernmental licenses and permits, as well as fines and fees. And 75%, the taxes that we receive funds the police, public works, community development, and finance in half of the city manager's office. And the remaining revenue sources fund the remaining 25% of our operations. Now, in looking at 1 year of personnel costs, which is approximately 7.76 million for 2024. General of the 7.76 million, general fund it funds 7 million or 91%, and only 9% or under 680,000 fund are from other sources. So like special revenue funds and capital projects fund. And this pie chart depicts the same amount of personnel cost for 1 year for 2024. And this is presented to you by department. And it is consistent with the overall expenditure distribution that you saw earlier, with the police making up about 47% of our personnel costs, followed by public works, parks and development services at 25%, and then followed by finance for 10%, and city manager's office for 7%, the marketing and communications, and then split between city clerk and HR, and then city council and IT.
And these are fully loaded now.
Correct. And again, to qualify, this 7.76 million does not include any retro for our police guild. So again, to qualify. And now for the remaining special revenue funds, all the special revenue funds, their revenue estimates are going to be greater than the budget, primarily because of the investment earnings. The expenditure estimates are going to be less than the budget, except for City Hall North Fund, which we're anticipating to have several repair and maintenance costs, as well as their share of the general liability insurance increase. The capital projects fund, the REIT estimate is going to be less than the budget. And we also included several state and county grants that are new. Also, just to remind you that the special revenue funds in here, we were proposing to create, to add a new fund for the opioid settlement fund, so we could comply with the requirements of the settlement agreements. And then our enterprise fund, we have the revenue estimates also exceeding the budget because of the investment earnings. And then their expenditure estimates would be less than the budget, primarily because of a lot of deferred projects. While internal services funds, again, revenues because of the investment earnings, and then expenditures would be about either less than or equal to the budget. So our proposed modifications, the first one would be an adjustment to the beginning fund balance. And this is an adjustment to revise the beginning numbers from estimate to actuals as of January 1 of 2023. And that would be a net increase of about 5.1 million. The next set of modifications, I have 5 categories for them. The detail of each category can be found on Exhibit B of stamp page 47 of 181 of your agenda packet. So the 5 resolutions that I mentioned earlier increases revenues by 414,000, as well as the expenditures by 190,000. We also included the new allocation for 2023-2025 from the state, as well as from the Snohomish County 2024 capital project budget. And that is an equal increase of revenue as well as the expenditures. We have various technical corrections. The net change of that would be about 707,000 increase. We have assumption updates, which includes the investment earnings increases, as well as the certain corrections for the revenues that are coming in. And that's a decline of the net decline of 716,000. So this also includes the rate adjustment. And we also have a prior year commitments that's 3,400, and then mostly capital improvement plan funding and expenditures to match. And that's a net decrease of 267,000.
Irmina, the main driver on the assumption updates, that's REIT, correct? Or am I
Yes.
missing?
No, it will be both the REIT, the charges for services, goods and services,
Oh, the charges for goods and
and
services.
then, but that's offset by the increases in the investment earnings. And this is not just general fund, this is across the board, all funds.
So the increases of 207 is offset by the $509,000 loss in revenue.
Yes, because so if the stamp page, up for you. This might help. Do you want?
Yeah, would you? I didn't get that.
This,
A copy of that. Thanks. Thank you.
does that help?
It's not offset. The revenues went down and the expenses went up.
Yep. I see it, yeah.
Irmina, on a side note, what were the advantages to creating its separate fund for the opioid settlement money, and why aren't we? Here's why I ask and why I worry about it. I just hoping that we're not maybe moving into putting it into this multi-city or multi-agency pot where we don't have any idea where it goes or any real say. So what advantages to putting it into its own fund?
So right now we have not drawn down on the settlement from the opioid, the two settlements that we signed off on. So the money is sitting with the distribution attorneys. We haven't drawn down because we have not gotten, I believe staff is still trying to figure out whether we would recommend to council to move forward with putting our money with the regional Snohomish County group. We have not done, they have not finished their proposal or their plan, so we cannot really assess whether we're going to put our money there, because we cannot calculate what the benefit would be for the city of Mill Creek. However, moving forward now, starting 2023, we have started to now pay for the Narcans, which we used to get for free before. And so we are proposing to start drawing down on the money from the opioid, but before we could do that, we have to establish a separate fund for it because the settlement agreement has a very restricted use of the fund. And so in order to monitor that and have transparency, we are proposing to create the fund, draw down the funds. We can earn our interest there so it can grow. And then if council decides to, yes, we're going to transfer or contribute our money to the regional, then we could do that and then close the fund. Or we could, if you decide that it's not useful, we're not going to get the benefit of that, then we can start to keep the money and use it for whatever programs we could create to comply with the requirements of the settlement agreement.
And that's a great answer that you went well beyond what I was asking and exactly what I was talking about is I know that Narcan is now, we're now going to have to foot the bill for that. So if there was ever an applicable or appropriate use for opioid settlement money, I mean, that would be it. So if it has to come from our fund, I support it. I think that's great use and thanks for the clarification.
Forward.
Yes, please.
Sorry. I had one other question though. On the new allocations, I understand why the revenue is offset by the expenditures. You know, we get all this cash, but we're going to spend it. If we do not spend it, then because we can't get the projects done, what happens? That
So-
becomes a revenue to the next year?
So normally if the state and the county don't give us the money in advance, unfortunately.
That's right.
We have to spend it
Complete it.
first,
We have to spend it first in order to get it.
correct?
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so the proposed modification from the October 3 budget, study session to the version that you're seeing now, I have 4 revisions, and those are the the library park renovation, the money from Snohomish County grant. I dropped that by 50,000 because it's going to be the budget actually for the park renovation went up, but it's gonna be funded from a different source. And then the 5-year pavement preservation program plan, which was originally programmed in 2027 for 70,000. We're moving that to 2024 for 80,000, but it's gonna be budget neutral because we shifted some of the estimated numbers from the Mill Creek Boulevard overlay rehab into this project instead. So it's gonna be budget neutral. And then we also, I missed this one in the Sweetwater Ranch storm main replacement. This was in the calculation, but I failed to add it in the actual modification, so I apologize for that. And that's for the A&E stands for architecture and engineering services. And then we also have the 164th Street storm pipe extension, which was completed in-house by the public works staff. And so I reduced that budget so that it'll match the actual by 36,000. So our next steps would be to open this initial public hearing and then hold a final public hearing on November 7, obtain final council direction at that point, and then come back on November 14 for the adoption of the ordinance. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Irmina. Are there any other questions, any additional questions? Seeing none, can we have a motion to open the public hearing? Motion a second?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? We will now open the hearing at 7:01 PM. So we'll start in the audience. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to testify? Seeing none, is there anyone online who would like to testify? Seeing a shake of heads, can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes.
Did we break the last record?
Right after it was done, we beat it by a millisecond. We did it in less than a minute. Okay, and any comments before we move on to the next hearing? Any discussion on that one? Okay, thank you, Irmina.
Thank you.
And now to public hearing number 3 for the evening. This is the public hearing related to the 2023 to 2028 capital improvement project plan amendments. And the staff report will be presented by our city engineer, Dan Carmody.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Once again, I'm Dan Carmody, the city engineer, and I'm here to present on our proposed amendments to the capital improvement plan. As a quick background, the capital improvement plan covers the years 2023 through 2028 and was originally approved in November 29th, 2022. The plan details the proposed projects over a 6-year period, but as time passed, additional projects have to be added and removed as needs come up. So we are proposing 3 new projects and 4 adjusted projects as part of this amendment. The new project first is the Sweetwater Ranch stormwater repair. As we discussed previously, this is an emergency repair for a pipe that broke originally in 2018. There were some sinkholes open up within the Sweetwater Ranch development. We repaired that, and now a new sinkhole has developed near a deep catch basin along our storm line in the development. Then that indicates that the system was leaking and that emergency repair did not stabilize. So we are going to stabilize the project for the 2023-2024 winter season and get an engineering firm on the line to design a final complete repair for it. We are anticipating response to the RFQ tomorrow on this project. So as Irmina mentioned, we have about $300,000 for design. Construction will be in the dry season, but we have not scoped a final option for the cost because we're looking at alternatives to just a straight storm main replacement. Library park renovation. The Parks and Recreation Board identified the need for a fenced tot lot as part of an ARPA funded project. However, as we were investigating that, it was also shown that the park has significant drainage issues. There's soggy grass areas throughout most of the park, making large portions of the grass unusable. This project would fix the drainage issues at a tot lot, repair and or enhance paths that are not ADA compliant, and re-landscape for conditions next to the wetland. This is anticipating a future expansion or renovation to Veterans Monuments, which this could help prepare and pave the way for. The funding is a possible $250,000 Snohomish County grant, as well as $100,000 in ARPA funds. Additionally, we will be looking at North Creek Trail to repave it and repair it. The trails along the western portion of the city in an easement on private and public lands. The city is technically only responsible for the maintenance of the pavement. The vegetation and fencing is the responsibility of the property owners. However, the trail is approaching a 20-year age and it's showing its age. This project would remove and replace trees that are heaving the trail, repave those sections and replace the trees. The funding would also come from county grants. We are looking at about $150,000 from the county grants for that. Depending on availability, the city could also use ARPA funding as well. The full project hasn't been scoped yet, but we are hoping to engage our maintenance crews as much as possible on the work on this project. The library renovations, it's already in the CIP, but we need to modify it to reflect the actual funding that we received from the state for flooring upgrades, and also reflect the fact that we are working with the Snow Isle Library System on the overall project. They're running the project. We are providing funds for that as part of this renovation. So this is a net zero change to the city. It's just reflecting where the funds are coming from. DRCC. The project itself is largely unchanged. We are doing a needs analysis, site capacity, community outreach. All of that is actually kicking off this Friday. We are anticipating design concepts in 2024 with site work and early construction to be determined. But there is state funding available for the work. So we amended the budget to show that new grant funding that we received for this project. City Hall North building renovation. This involves HVAC upgrades, roof replacements, earthquake upgrades. The scope is still in flux on this due to the city spaces versus lease spaces, what we have access to, what we can actually use, and also what the city's planning within its 10 to 20 year horizon. So the project received funding from the state's 2023 to 2025 Biennium, and master planning and renovation was scheduled for 2026, but we're moving it to 2024 to start the work. Budget adjustments. The 164th Street storm pipe extension was performed in-house. They were revising the budget to reflect this. We were able to save $36,000 by self-performing this work. The Public Works Yard Facility Value Engineering Study. We received a grant for about $250,000. And so we're increasing 2024 funding to reflect this grant and begin movement on this project. The Citywide Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. We are anticipating a grant from USDOT to be approved by the end of this year. And so we are modifying the line items for this for the $160,000 we'll receive from USDOT and the $40,000 of matching city funding. And finally, as we'll be discussing a little bit later in the council meeting, we've been looking at the pavement preservation program for the city. And one of the things we found is that while the original program was, the investigations were done in 2020 and 2021, the last couple of years have been very hard on our roads. And so what we have in our investigations and plans doesn't actually match what's out there on the roads. So we are proposing to move the work forward from 2027 to 2024 so that we can get updated information and actually address the roads that need maintenance first. We're proposing $80,000 for this, and that will be taken from the Mill Creek Boulevard overlay project, which is being pushed out for the comprehensive plan. One other thing I wanted to bring up just quickly is the fact that we are now looking at creating formalized capital improvement project phases. So that way it will create additional clarity on what we are doing as part of capital projects. And it'll also protect our scope and our budgets to make sure that there isn't scope creep or budget creep as the project proceeds. The phases we're proposing is the concept phase. This is when a need arises. There's a citizen complaint. The council notices something in the city that needs to be fixed. Something's been identified as part of, we noticed that there may be additional incidents at an intersection, something like that. That will then be, should we look at this further? Should we go further on this? Once we have that, then we'll go into the scoping and planning phase. This is when we do additional investigations. We'll get engineers on board. We'll get people on board to look at this and say, is this something that warrants a capital project? And we'll find out how much money do we need? How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? From that, we'll go into the actual design of the full project. That's when we prepare the plans, specifications, and estimates for a final construction bid contract. And we go to the construction and implementation phase. And finally, once that's done, the city accepts the work that was done, and we, as capital projects, hand that off to the maintenance team to then handle the rest of handle it from there on. What we would like to do is actually propose phase gates. These are times that we would check in with council and make sure that that the council is aware of what is happening with the capital improvement projects and how they are proceeding. So from the concept phase, we would propose, after that is done, either there will be just a motion or an amendment to the CIP to get the concept phase moving towards a scoping and planning phase. So that way we can, that we have looked at this item and are ready to proceed with it. After we've gone through the scoping and planning phase, we'll go come to the council for 1 or 2 times. If it is a large complex project, we'll come in probably twice to first tell you what the results of the scoping and planning is. So this project will cover this scope for this amount of money. And then we'll also come in for the approval of the design contract. So once we've actually gotten the design firm on board, we will have the council approve the contract. After the design phase is done, we will come in for the construction contract approval once we have a contractor on board. And then finally, once the construction implementation is done, we will ask for a motion of acceptance. So once everything is done, once finance has been satisfied that all outstanding items are done, we will accept the project and it will be closed from the capital project side and it will be handed off to maintenance. So we would like to formalize those things and make sure that the council is aware of them. So that is everything that I have as far as the capital improvement plan update. Are there any questions?
Any questions from council? Councilmember Cavallari.
Thanks, Mayor. Quick question. Yeah. Why were the road projects moved up 3 years to 2024? I think you said we were extra hard on the roads.
It's the weather, it's not necessarily our traffic or anything like that. It's just the weather cycles, those kind of items have been extra hard on them. And so as we've been going and actually reviewing the locations, and project engineer Bean will address this in his presentation after I'm done. We found that there are additional roads that may be not reflected in the pavement condition index that we had found that need to be addressed, or the damage goes further than what they found, or there were even items that weren't even on the list that the operator or maintenance manager has brought up as need to be addressed. So all these items together is just, we are a little concerned about the data that we're running off of so far. We want to make sure that we're being accurate and putting our funds to good use.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Steckler.
Great presentation, Dan. I like the gates a lot. That keeps us kind of in control of where we need to be asking questions. I have 3 questions. One is on the Mill Creek Boulevard, you made the comment that it's being pushed out. Why is that?
So Mill Creek Boulevard, we are waiting on to create the final design for it based on comprehensive plan, how we're dealing with the other areas around there. And so we don't want to go in and do a maintenance project on it and then have to come up and tear it up in a couple of years when we update our standards for that.
So are there other projects that you want to get further down the road before you push on that one to kind of help?
That project, we want to get further along with the comprehensive plan that the planning division is doing. And so we want to get further along on that so we know what's going in there and what all we need to do as for maintenance for it, because
Okay,
we don't just want to overlay, we may actually end up having to do stormwater improvements there as well.
okay, that makes sense. On the top park at the let's say the top park at the library. I love the idea, but I'm just kind of curious as we're talking about this. Have we done any research or surveys or anything to say, do people want this? I think it sounds like a great idea, but I just wasn't sure if people want it before we build it.
This is brought up by the Parks and Recreation Board.
I know, I saw that the Parks and Rec Board wanted it. Do they have surveys from, oh, maybe you can answer that, surveys from the citizens that they wanted, or I just wasn't sure.
It's the advisory board that we depend on to bring these recommendations. The city manager and staff asked us to procure a few projects utilizing ARPA funds and potential grant monies from the county and state. And this was the board's top recommendation. So here we are.
So we do have information from citizens that, yes, I just hate to see us build it and then nobody wants it.
We haven't made any final decisions. This is purely a concept and putting funding in the budget to move it forward.
I love the idea. Maybe we should just add into that a survey to make sure people, yes, great idea, or no, I would never let my kid
Well,
use it.
I think we've heard quite a bit from people. They want the Veterans Monument expanded, and in order to make that happen, this project is necessary.
And until we do the water first, same thing. We can't expand the memorial or monument park until the drainage issue is fixed.
So yes, we can't do the top part until we get the drainage issue fixed. I just wanted to make sure we did some type of reach out to the community, maybe call marketing to make sure, yeah, there's a desire for this.
Yeah,
Again,
we can certainly do that.
I'm only a vote of one. I think it's a great idea, but I don't know if other people.
But we can certainly.
Yeah, I think it would be something that it's city funds we should. My last question, on the City Hall North Building renovation, I had a couple people reach out to me on this one because it got out on the social media that we were looking to, the way the social media put it, we're looking to expand our business leases at City Hall North. That's not exactly true, but that was what the message was. And the respondents came out to me and said, why are we doing that when we need more public space for our public groups and organizations that need a space to meet and maybe even a space for an annex room for our senior group that wants to meet in the city. So I wasn't sure if we're moving ahead with renovation and plans to expand our business leases, or if that was just something
That's not part of the scope of this project. This project is just for HVAC, roof upgrades, and earthquake.
Nothing to do with leases.
No.
Okay, great.
The only question we had was access to areas as far as whether or not it's leased. And so that was the only question in there that when I brought up the lease on this.
Perfect. My questions are answered. Thanks.
Councilmember Duque.
If I can first start with responding to Councilmember Steckler, just because I have attended a few of the Parks and Recreation Board meetings. And so while there is no formal survey, as the advisory group, all members have reached out to their community and their networks to ask what are the priorities and interests. And a fenced area around a park has been something that I've heard requested since I was on the Parks and Recreation Board, because it's not something that the city of Mill Creek has for an area to be. And as the Parks and Recreation Board over the years has been thinking about is it a new location? Is it an update to one? It seemed that this board, made the light bulb moment of, wait, we have so many story time opportunities. That's such a popular event there that this is a great place to be able to have that. So I will say no formal surveys, but that is, as Councilmember Cavallari was saying, as an advisory board, they are the ones who are out in the community asking and, and going around and generally getting that feedback. But myself as a council member, I also made sure to share that. In terms of questions, I was looking earlier this weekend to figure out a full list of all of the CIPs that we have, like on the list. And I found, previous agendas that have presentations about it. So I guess in terms of this, it would be helpful in knowing kind of the status of where we all with all of them, not just the ones with adjustments. Because I didn't see anything about Silver Crest Park, which I would have assumed would be part of adjustment because the last time we heard about it, we weren't moving forward. And so I assumed when adjustments came to us, that would be included because we said that was something that was important to all of us. So if there could be a list.
Silver Crest Park, I can't address that one.
Perfect.
Silver Crest Park is actually being we are modifying the bid currently because all of the bids came in too high on that. So we're modifying the bids to create alternates and to find economies in the design to bring it back in line with the budget. And we are planning on reposting the project for construction bid by the end of the year.
Fantastic. I assume that was the case, but it was one of those where I went, oh, when we're getting this kind of presentation, it'd be good to have a standard, these are all of the things in our list. And these are the things that we're, moving forward, or if it's in the packet, it may be not in the specific presentation. I think that would be helpful. And I love the gate phases, as you called it, just because obviously we've been trying the other way and there's still some miscommunications and gaps. So I love that you guys are thinking about how to best make sure we feel like we're in the loop. And also being transparent for residents to be able to see. And I'm assuming with the scope and project, that's when we would get kind of in that phase, that's when we'd get more of that timeline milestone aspect for us to see the project. That's where that would be going. Because I think back to our finance director's presentation about earlier today when it was, when are we doing our hearing and which meeting will have this? And so I have that same visualization that we could then, have just, the PowerPoint, the visual of each one so that if we wanted to look in a binder, we could see each one and then kind of take it upon ourselves to look for it, or whether it's on any of the intranets.
Yes.
So thank you very much for that confirmation.
Other questions?
Mayor, I have my hand raised.
Oh, you have it up now, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, and Councilmember Decay addressed this a little bit, but I just wanted to point out regarding the tot lot in the library park that we have had multiple discussions on this, and we had an entire study session with the Parks Board, and the council blessed moving forward with this project, which is why it needs to be updated on the CIP. So there's no need for us to start all over at the first step again, because we've already done all this due diligence and we as a council approved to move forward with this. So I just want to make that clear. And so that's really all I wanted to add, because I heard Councilmember Steckler asking those questions about that, but we don't need to start over. We've already approved it.
Okay, if there's no further questions, can we have a motion and a second to open the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed, abstentions? With the motion carries, and with that, the public hearing is opened at 7:23 PM. Is there anyone in the audience? Do we have anyone sign up? No one signed up? Anyone like to testify? Seeing a negative, anyone online? Mr. Nelson, name and if you would state your city of residence, please.
Will Nelson, Red Cedar, Mill Creek. I'd like to affirm that the concept of moving the street evaluations forward is a very good idea. As your city engineer said, we really need to take a good look at that and get up to speed on fixing our roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anyone else online? Hearing none after that long public hearing, do we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? And with that, the public hearing is closed at 7:24. Yeah, thank you. Any final comments? I think we had a lot of comments. Councilmember Steckler.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I didn't ask to move the library park project to its beginning. I only asked a question. Did we do a survey as to the interest in a tot park? I just wanted to clarify that for the record. Let's set the record straight. I'm not asking to move the project to its beginning. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think we're done with the public hearings. Thank you, Dan. Okay, we'll move on. We have no old business tonight, so we'll move on to our new business. Who is going to present? Are you back up with
Back
us?
up.
Okay.
At least to introduce. So I would like to turn the floor over to project engineer Robert Bean. He has joined the city just 3 days after I did, so about on the same schedule. He has extensive experience in pavement maintenance and roadway and capital projects, and so he has been an excellent addition to the city. We're very happy to have him. So I'll turn this over to project engineer Bean.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and everyone who's joined us this evening. I enjoy this opportunity to get to talk to you about the 2024 paving project. Let me call it up here. So where's my Zoom? There. Nope, that's not it. Hold on. I'm having trouble sharing. You see it? Oh, okay. I'll go back to that one. Thank you very much. Well, I thank you very much again for this opportunity to speak to you about this. I thought I was sharing.
Just online.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you. So for 2024, we get an opportunity to get some of the work described, completed that he described earlier. I want to start off with just a quick definition of what pavement condition is, because that is something that we just mentioned. And we're going to be talking about that as this evening goes on. When a road is first paved, it's considered a pavement condition of 100. And as time goes on, it'll drop. 75, 70 is good. At risk is at 50. And in 2020, IMS did a survey of our roadways, and they found that Mill Creek has an overall condition of 79. And that was in 2020. So with this data, we looked for roads that were between 60 and 70 to work on this next year. This is an example of what their truck looks like. And when we say pavement condition, it's not just the asphalt, but the 1 foot prism, the subgrade, the top course, and the asphalt. This truck will read all of that as it's going through. And it'll also do an assessment of our curb cuts as well, because as part of this project, we'll be upgrading any curb ramps that don't meet current ADA standards. So for our region, 79 is considered very good. A lot of cities around the lake are in the 60s. So we're in really good shape. This is a list, a graphic showing all the roads that fall below 70 within the city. When you look at the sum of all this, the cost for just asphalt is $3 million. And in 2020, that's what the group asked IMS to provide, was a cost estimate just for paving. Our current budget wouldn't allow for that. When I walked these streets, you found typical areas of roadway cracking, and that's usually due to like heavy truck traffic, garbage trucks, large delivery vehicles. Raveling of the asphalt, that's where the binder, the asphalt washes away from the rocks. It allows for moisture to collect like you see here. And it also reduces the stopping ability of the pavement. You're more likely to slide a little bit if it's wet out. And then alligator cracking, which is the last photo there, which looks like that could indicate that the subgrade is actually damaged. And so, you know, this is a flexible pavement, and as water gets in, it and freezes, it starts to break apart the asphalt. So what we've done is looking at the budget that we had and the streets that had a pavement condition between 60 and 70, we went through and tried to match what could match our budget, plus the time to complete the construction by the end of next summer. We're starting kind of late in starting this process here. So we have 25th, 36th, 28th Drive, Country Club Road, 23rd, 22nd, a group of streets that are all around the city that should make a big impact to let the citizens know that we're out there and we're restoring the pavement. The capital improvement budget is from ST 9001, 003, and 004. Those dollar values for 2023 sum up to $1.7 million based on the IMS estimate, but that's just for asphalt. So the streets that you saw, they don't look as great as half of the original image we saw, because we had to go through and do an actual cost estimate to see the streets that we selected would still come in under budget. And with using unit bid prices from WashDOT, City of Everett, City of Bothell, and Snohomish County for projects they did this year, and the quantities that we had, we were able to come up with a really good cost estimate to show what this project will take to be completed, with some contingencies for some pricing uncertainty.
So is this repaving those roads with asphalt?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. It's called a mill and fill. You basically grind off 2 or 3 inches of the top course, and then you repave it back. In some areas, like with the alligator cracking, there will be some full pavement rebuild.
So I think myself, Councilmember Cavallari, Director Todd, and maybe Councilmember Steckler still have the bruises from when we talked about chip seal, when we finally got around to it. We talked in the past about various options, and I know the repaving has its issues because it triggers the need to do the ADA upgrades. But my parents live in Kirkland, and the street that they live off of Lake Washington Boulevard, they're using slurry seal. And which, as I recall, is a little more expensive than chip seal, but a lot less expensive than repaving. And is that something that we're looking at and evaluating?
Not with this project. Slurry seal would be something for a PCI greater than 70. If you were like in the 80s, high 70s, early 80s, that's a maintenance. After you pave and you're at 100, 3 years later, you start to treat your surfaces so you'll get longer life out of them. If you do maintenance throughout the time, your pavement will last longer and it'll cost cheaper in the long run. These roads are in definite need of being grind and overlaid.
Yeah.
This estimate also does cover upgrading the ADA ramps that were within our project limit.
Thank you for that clarification.
So we have a milestone schedule here. It kind of shows what our phases are for this. I'm here talking to you today at 10:24. We're going to advertise and look for a designer and open those bids 11/20, open those proposals on November 21st and come back to you December 5th to allow us to move forward with that contract. That designer, we need to survey the project limits. So it's going to take us a little bit more time to come back to get our 30% submittal and our final design. We'll be back here at council June 4th to get approval for our construction.
June 4th?
June 4th
Oh,
of 2024.
Oh, next, okay, that's.
Yeah,
ways
and this kind of lays out how the phases will work. Now you kind of know what to expect and when to expect it. Then, if the number of streets that we selected should allow us to complete and restripe by the end of September next year. You know, with plastic stripe, there's a 21-day curing time of the asphalt before you can lay it down. So we're really pushing to have all the asphalt laid down between July 9th and September 15th-ish, September 10th. So we're gonna give them 2 months to get all of that done. Then we'll do construction finish and close out. Then we'll be back here getting your approval for that so we can transfer it to the maintenance group. We were also thinking about how do we measure success on this project? And some of the ways that we thought of were, you know, being proactive and only knowing all of our risks and accounting for them. So our change orders would only come from unknown risks, no worker or public injury, minimal public disruption, a smooth ride, and staying within budget and schedule. Any questions?
Welcome aboard. Nice presentation. Any questions? Councilmember Duque.
That was a fantastic presentation. And I don't mean that for everyone else, but thank you everyone has great presentations but it was so wonderful to see what we just were talking about and put into action. And it's very clear because whenever I look at these presentations, I think about residents who don't come to city council meetings and always ask me, what do you guys do? Right? And I get that question and I talk about, well, we, and then there's that pause. And this is like exactly what I can set to. It's, you know, we're supporting our, you know, this was just fantastic. So thank you for, the hype was well worth it. So
I appreciate that. There's a little bit of a bumble at the beginning, but that's all right.
Any other questions? Councilman or Director Todd.
If I could comment there, the comment earlier, remember we've not done any paving projects in Seattle Hill Road in 2020. And so what you're seeing is that pavement condition index study that was done in 2020 by staff before we left in COVID, that was great data that was going to be used in 21, 22, 23 for paving projects. And that's what Dan was talking about earlier and Roberts found is that he was drawing lines on maps and I was going, yeah, but that other road is in bad shape. Seattle Hill Road, the old Seattle Hill Road's in bad shape. And so we found that thing had deteriorated. So that was the reason we're moving the study up, not the projects, but the study was moved up from 27 to get better data. Because that's what Roberts found in spades is, oh gosh, this is not the number of 80 that looked good 3 years ago is now a 65. Oops, we better fix that stuff. So we're catching up in a lot of ways. But the conversation you started earlier about other pavement preservation techniques, I think that's still in our wheelhouse for the future. But right now we want to get these before they go to alligator's status. A lot of you have noticed the work that was done by our public works crew to alligator crack seal the trillium. There's a lot of tar there. And that was a way to stick that together for a couple of years until we'll have a major project on that one. Have to be more than just a grind and overlay. But we want to put that together so it doesn't fall apart in the bunch of potholes for the next couple of years. So we're catching up. Shortage of engineers, shortage of resources during COVID, but we're really happy to have some people who know what they're doing. And 1 month into it, I'm proud of these guys for hustling. Robert said this is kind of a late start to get this done for 2024, but I think he's going to make it happen. So we're happy about that. Thanks.
Great. Thank
you. Have one moment. I'd just like to show you this graphic again.
Yeah.
See where it shows 870 to 84. When we're somewhere around 75 to 85, that's when we look at different treatments like your slurry or something to kind of
Or
the
chip
ro-
seal.
Yeah, no chip seal. I'm an anti-chip seal person as a bicyclist and a unicyclist. I just don't like that kind of thing. So, you know, the pavement is flexible. And when it's only a few years old, it's still rigid enough, but you can start to see like a little bit of raveling or cracks. That slurry will fill that in and bring new life to that pavement and keep it more flexible so it doesn't allow water in and destroy your subgrade.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, where's it? Mr. Harder, I think you're up. Talk about height limits and signs.
Guess I'll use this. Hear me okay? Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Adrian's gonna drive for me. Okay, so there's just an update on the wayfinding project since I last talked to you guys a few weeks ago. We met with our designer, thanks Adrian, recently and dove into some of the city code. And something that we didn't find before showed up quite clearly that according to our code, identification signs cannot exceed 7 feet in height and cannot exceed 128 square feet. So imagine 128 square feet, that's pretty big, right? So on the next slide, you can see, here's an example of how town center got around it. This probably is like just over 100 square feet. And that's how they got past the sign code there. So on the next slide, it'll show that if we want to go bigger, we have to change the code. It'll have to be revised, and there is a process. I have a lot of subject matter experts in the room right now, so I'm just going to read this. I can't answer the question. So, but if we do this, there'll be the staff review, and we'll revise the sign code, draft code to the planning commission, public hearing with recommendation to city council, 60-day commerce review, city council consideration and action, and up to a 6-month process, including public comment.
Yeah, when we last discussed this a few weeks ago, we talked about big, bigger and biggest signs.
Right.
And what we didn't know is the bigger and biggest don't comply with our sign code. So the question is, do we want to go bigger or biggest? Because if we do, we're gonna have to go through this process to amend the code. So do we want to go through that process to amend the code?
I don't
Do we
think
wanna
there was
stay-
anybody on here that wanted huge.
We didn't know what bigger meant, but now we know
Right.
what it means because now the code defines it as 7 feet tall. We have some leeway going sideways horizontally to make the signs bigger, but we can't go above the current heights.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem, yeah.
when we had our discussion, I was under the impression that by bigger, he had indicated that we meant the same, similar height, but wider, which to me would fall in line with what's he's saying is within the code, because my vision would be something similar to that town center sign that he showed, where we go out wider to make it bigger. But we're not talking taller, and that is what I thought we were in agreement on.
Well, let's not worry about that. Do we want to amend the code or not, or do we want to stay within the confines of the code? It's
I
pretty
guess my
simple.
point is that then if that was what we had agreement on, then we don't need to change the code because it's it's within code.
Oh, I'm not sure that's not what my understanding was, because we had some discussion on heights and widths. And we didn't know what bigger might look like. That's part of the problem with debating in the abstract.
When we were talking about space constrictions and restrictions, that
Right.
was it, going wider in some spots and going taller in some.
others.
So, yeah,
Right,
but we didn't know about those confines back then.
right. So do we want to, is the direction for staff to stay within the code and not pursue a code amendment? We all in agreement on that? Oh, Councilmember Steckler, sorry, didn't see your light.
I thought I'd just play by the rules, put my light on for you. So the town center sign seems to be a great example. That follows the rules. That sign is 7 feet tall, is that right?
Yeah, it
Okay.
is.
But it's actually on a hill, a little bit. So if you want to make your sign taller, you just
It doesn't work that way now.
well, go back to that sign.
Adrian, can you go back to the town
It's not
center
a matter
sign?
of what the picture says.
It's
a matter
measured
of what
from
grade.
the base. Yeah,
From
so it's
there.
measured from there. Yeah, that's
Right, from the base of the sign, not from the base of the ground. the base of the sign.
The code explicitly says you cannot build up the ground to get it taller.
Okay, so that sign is not built on a taller piece of ground, okay. 'Cause I've been
So,
down
so
there.
remember the heritage of that sign was built first. And then the Mill Creek got added behind it. So it was in compliant with the code when it was first done. And then you could look at it now and say it's a total 7 foot from the ground up, but yeah, that bent the rules.
Yeah, that bent the rules, okay. So that's what I'm asking. It is built on a hill. I've seen it. It's built, the ground is built up underneath it. So that you cannot build up the ground underneath it. Or you can. No,
You're not supposed to. Not
that one
supposed
is,
to.
but you're not supposed to. Let's answer it honestly. Okay, that one is, but you're not supposed to. Okay. That's
I
my
guess the question is, what was the sign code in 2006 when this was installed?
All right, yeah. All right, so that was my question. We can't build up the ground.
Correct.
See, 7 feet is not that tall. Okay, that is my, yeah, when I would, if that's where the code gets kind of hinky when you say, where is the ground level? Is it where you plant the sign? Is it, somebody says, no, it's actually this lower level over here.
So if you look on this one, that sign on the right, that's one on 164th, that's raised, right? So you put a 7 foot sign on top of that, that is gonna be hence what, 9 feet.
Right.
As it appears here.
But that's on raised ground.
Mike, is that raised ground?
I think it's an issue of whether you add to the ground or as opposed
Yeah,
to
you
putting
can't
on the
add to the
existing
ground.
grade. It's existing grade versus changing the grade and putting a
So if I
sign on top of
landscape the
it.
ground any
If you-
way I want.
If you change the grade, you can't change the grade to increase it and then put a sign on top of it.
Okay. Bottom line, it's 7 feet from the ground.
Existing grade, I believe.
Yeah, we're talking about, well, you can't say existing grade because, okay, where you're putting a sign now, but when you're building land, yeah, it's for developers and such, they flatten out the land. Anyway, it's 7 feet from the ground, not from wherever the sign is planted. It's 7 feet from that area. 7 feet from where the ground, that would be fine. Because that obviously will work for most of the sign areas where you're going to be putting it, because it's not going to be down on the street level.
So that's where. Can I go on with this slide? Is
Yeah.
there anything, I'm sorry, were there any other questions?
Yeah, Councilmember GK has a question.
Well, I had two. One was just to answer that I'm fine not changing the code and moving forward with wider or looking for different opportunities. But I did have a question because we were talking about the town center ones. Their sign isn't 7 feet tall though, right? The existing town center from that blue bottom to the top of the welcome to, is that 7 feet? And then, no, so they're below that. But our Mill Creek one that we added, I like that vision of it. That is 7 feet.
Correct,
That one is full 7 feet tall from where it's located. And there's 2 of those at town center.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember GK, Councilmember Ellison.
Well, in that example that you show up here, the one on the left. The example that you show up there on the left, it would be really nice to have a taller sign that doesn't intrude anymore into the view, in that area. But maybe some landscaping so that doesn't become a place where shopping carts live. That would be an improvement, in my opinion.
So are we in agreement within the code?
Yes.
Okay, you have your direction?
Yes. Oh, go back, Adrian, sorry. I just want to mention that, so all these sign locations are going to require surveying. We're going to get started on that soon, but each of these survey locations will indicate the available area for future signage. Like Councilmember Duque brought up this one in the bottom left by Fred Meyer. That's a much larger space where we could go wider or have this mega wide version. I don't know what that looks like. Again, we'll have more concepts when we get in there, but the signs can't interfere with the site triangle. So for this one, it cannot obstruct any of the required site distance. And same with the one on the right. Again, if that starts to protrude out or get in the way of any site distance requirements, then we'd have to change it. But the surveying that we do is definitely going to help us figure out where these signs need to go, what needs to get moved or transferred, swapped, any of those.
Well, we need to upgrade our signs. Is there any thought to holding on to that somewhere for posterity's sake?
I'm sorry, Annie, what?
The old sign on 164th.
Your garage.
It goes. It's gonna go into the DRCC museum.
There you go. Okay, thank you, Scott.
It might fall apart when you grab it.
So
And then,
how tall is this sign right here that we're looking at? Is that over 7 feet?
Let's,
Is that over 7 feet tall? I think it is, isn't it?
I haven't got out with the tape measure, but
But it is over 7 feet, isn't it?
let's,
It most certainly is.
it's pretty tall.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So this was part of.
It is definitely, yeah.
I'm gonna keep
I
talking.
think you know, we're trying to get around this question of should we look at, should we get a commitment from council, not to change our code on signage, but the reality is, I think we need a little more information before we say, oh yeah, let's not change it. We may want to change our code. It may hurt us. I think we need a little bit more information. Limiting ourselves to 7 feet might be a limitation to the type of signage we want for our city to make it impactful. I don't really want to hide my signage if 7 feet is a detriment. This one's sitting on a post at its base, and it's probably over 7 feet to begin with. If we put a signage up with the correct codes, it might be, 2 feet shorter than what we're looking at right here. I don't know. You got to give me some better information.
Professor, do you want to educate us on the sign code, please?
Can we get somebody with?
Let me give you a little bit of perspective. Commercial businesses get 4 feet 6 inches of height and 34 square feet of signage. So if they have an 18-inch base, right, on existing grade, the total height from the bottom of the base to the top of the sign, 6 feet 6 inches. So if you want to open up the sign code, I guarantee you, all the commercial businesses are going to be in here saying, I want the same deal.
Well, there's a difference between a commercial business and a city. So I would understand commercial businesses wanting to have consistency. What do cities have? In other words, can you tell me what does the city of Linwood's code have?
For commercial businesses?
No, for city.
Before we go too far down this path,
See,
let's see if there's a majority of the council that wants to path.
I think you're limiting yourself to your signage
That
opportunities.
you've made your opinion very clear. I think to short circuit this, let's have, does someone want to make a motion and see if what the support is for evaluating this
Mayor,
further?
I'd like to make a motion to maintain our current sign code.
Second,
Just to clarify, the motion would be for the signs that we're evaluating, the new signs, for them to stay within the current.
Correct, the new wayfinding signs.
second,
Is there any further discussion?
I think that is a limitation. You don't have any information to base that on.
Okay. Councilmember Duque.
I don't know if we needed that to have been the motion, because it was more about, did we want to make a change? I just wanted for discussion onto the motion since it's been seconded. Those signs are taller than 7 feet. Because I'm watching a video of the chamber president, and it is clearly taller than him. So then I guess the question is, do we then need to get rid of like what that is before any motion, or I would like more information on what do we do about these signs that the city has that are not within code, as we're talking about it, whether or not we move forward. But is there like separate rules, I guess, for city owned things that can be established, or I don't know, but I just wanted to flag it is taller. I just looked up the video.
When was the sign code last amended?
Oh, I should, I've got it right in front of me. I should be able to tell. 2012, looks like we repealed a section. I will tell you, in 2004, when we built the sports park, we buried 6 children at the sports park because the signs were too tall. We took signs that were big, they were too tall. We dug a big hole and buried those signs halfway up. And so if you look, there's tops of kids' heads were very expensively put into those signs. So pay homage to those kids when you go by sometime, but so the city took that action. I guess the question now is, should the city take the action to correct this mistake made back in 2008? You could say, let's make those shorter, although we just invested some money in vinyl wrapping them.
Well, but those would be grandfathered in. They're non-conforming. They were conforming at the time they were built, so we wouldn't have to take them down.
So, right, if during this big, huge 2006 wayfinding project, if city code allowed for this, and this is a huge packet, and they talk about maintaining city code when they installed these, I can only assume back then they did, right?
Yeah.
So now they don't adhere to city code, but do they get grandfathered in?
Yeah, and so our discussion at the prior meeting was not about, was rewrapping the existing signs, but the discussion on height and width was regarding the new signs that we were proposing to put in around the city. So that's what I think the motion is directed at, is those new signs. Councilmember Steckler?
So we have a number of signs in our city that definitely don't hold to the old existing code, correct? And we're now looking at investing in new signs for our city. Why would we at this time want to limit ourselves in our design to a shorter signage height than many of our existing signs in our city? At this time, why don't we look at the proper design and see if 7 feet is fine and it does look great and we could just stick with the existing design? Or maybe that is a limitation and we should look at changing the height requirements for the city, not commercial, but the city signage for our city, our city signs. I think that I think at this time to say, you know what, without any other information and knowing that the new welcoming signs for our city will be in many cases shorter than existing signage that we have in our city, we're just going to go ahead and say that we want to make them shorter because of our existing signage code. Seems rather limiting in my mind.
Any other discussion? So just to clarify, you want to reiterate your motion, Vince, or do you want me to attempt to restate it? And you correct me if I get it wrong.
Let's do that. Thanks, Mayor.
So if I understand the motion that's on the table is to proceed with staff designing.
Adrian, can you go to the last slide that has the proposed?
There we go. Move forward with the city, and just to clarify, the city signage design is for the new signs.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone clear on what the motion is that's been in front of us? Okay, I hear no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed, nay.
Abstentions? So my math is the motion is passed 5-1. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. And real quick, just go back, Adrian, a couple of slides just to so those were the old ones. And now the next slide forward, if you've seen these are the new ones. So these got wrapped, there's 3 of these along the area. We're working with the chamber. As you can see, there used to be a very abstract map underneath the directional signs that we've replaced with the QR code that goes to our business page on the website. And we're working with the chamber to create a comprehensive map and directory of businesses in and around Mill Creek based on location, shopping district, services, and alpha list. So.
And what?
And an alphabetical list.
Oh, alphabetical list.
Yeah. And we saved
Great.
thousands on that because we designed it ourselves.
Great, good work. Thank you, Scott. Okay, that brings us to our consent agenda this evening. Item A, approval of checks number 66610 through 66684 and ACH wire transfers in the amount of $349,706.05. The audit committee was myself and Councilmember Cavallari. Were there any exceptions?
No exceptions.
No exceptions. And item B is city council meeting minutes of October 3rd, 2023 and October 10th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved 6-0. Staff report, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh. All right, thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem's online, council, staff. We are now in our fourth quarter of 2024, and I just wanted to provide council with a pretty brief, relatively brief update of things that we accomplished in Q3. More or less high level, I'll cover some of the things in Q4, which A lot of those were already covered in our prior presentations regarding the public works and their CIP projects moving forward. To give a progress update, I decided to also readdress our retreat that we hold at the beginning of the year. I kind of want to touch on the 2023 priorities that council set, as well as the long-term 26 goals that were set as well. Some of these we have not addressed yet. We're not moving forward with, but at least it gives you an idea of kind of where we're at. Covered that. So one of the key priorities, one of the top 5 priorities in 2023 was to commence development of the RCC master plan. As our city engineer Carmody mentioned that you haven't heard yet, but you'll have our staff reaching out to you to put on your boots, because we're going to have you, Director Todd will elaborate a little more, get your feet a little dirty out there and on the site initially when we start commencing the project really quick here. There's not much else to mention on that. So as you know, in Q3 also, we've had an opportunity to nail down or earmark about $4 million for the projects. We may have a few other things coming forward as we continue operating, either services or equipment that mostly probably our public works department might need, but and possibly police as well. But as far as right now, we're pretty much have a good list of projects. Many of those that have already started, many of those that we'll continue working on in 2024. There are quite a few projects also that we need to kind of get together as staff and start commencing these projects, getting them moving forward. But now that we have a pretty full team across the departments, I think we can start moving forward a little more. So we may need additional capacity, so we may be reaching out to council for some professional services to help align with maybe public works to give kind of a nitrous oxide type boost to these CIP projects. So, but ARPA's funding's moving forward. Of course, as you recall, we do have a balance remaining, so we'll have to make some big decisions on how we want to spend that remaining balance. Of course, we do have some large projects that we're working on, as you mentioned, as our city engineer mentioned. So we'll have to consider everything as we consider how we're going to spend those remaining funds. Enhancing community engagement, we can check this one off as well. Marketing communications team did a great job of course, holding our yearly events, our portfolio of events. We continue bringing in probably, I believe, about 3,000 plus people in total over the course of the year to all of our events. And that doesn't include all the external events as well that are held that we actually partner with, like the Chamber of Commerce. And so
City manager, just sorry to interrupt you, but how much do we have left from ARPA?
1.8.
Well, just a ballpark.
About 1.8.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. So other ways that we're enhancing community engagement is marketing is actually brought in, as you know, Ms. Heidel as a lead volunteer. She's done a great job of bringing forward, getting volunteers coming into City Hall, and we had 2 big events, cleanup days. One was Earth Day, and the other one was National Cleanup Day as well. Something coming up in 2024, and this is going to be news to Barb because we are pretty busy, is we're going to bring forward a Adopt the Street program. Ms. Heidel has identified a number of streets across the city that she's identified that probably need cleanup, and I think there's probably 20 or 30 on that list. So we're going to put together a program where residents across the city will be able to basically adopt the street, and then the idea is to actually keep those streets clean. So we'll be engaging probably, hopefully, I don't know, hundreds of individuals to help us out and keep the city clean and well maintained. As I meet with our partners every quarter, I'll continually get positive feedback on kind of how the city leadership team and council are doing. And I get to update them on the various things that we've actually heard today through our public works team and through various staff. So all of our partners, we're just strengthening those relationships. the Rotary, Snow Isle Libraries, the senior centers and so forth. And so I'm continually adding to my list, more partners and more external parties that I meet with, just to kind of update. And I think over time, that's kind of starting to gain traction, and then people are starting to get, when people hear good things, they tend to spread the word too. So it's starting to work, as I start adding these external parties to my list. Develop a plan to increase police presence. I asked Chief White to provide me with a plan to move forward with. And as you know, until we're fully staffed, it's really difficult to actually put something in place. So we have, he has a plan to move forward, and he's been doing that by, as officers come off of academy training and FTO, they boots on the ground, then it's an opportunity for him to encourage these officers to, as they patrol the streets, to use their discretionary time to also drive through neighborhoods and then focus on traffic safety as well. So we're, within our 4.6 square miles, we're continually just encouraging our officers just to continue driving through the streets and neighborhoods. So getting pretty good feedback on a lot of our partners that they're starting to see officers out there. And if you haven't noticed, there's probably more lights on as well. Another part of that, we're starting to encourage our officers to increase the number of tickets they're writing as well. I am a strong believer in actually monetarily impacting our communities with enforcement, and I think there is a balance there. But and Chief really careful about how he implements that piece of it. But as the officers out there, are also increasing rapport with community through the business community and the residents. So that's another way that we're engaging our community through policing. So you're aware of the citizen patrol. Barb's a part of that, and another way to increase police presence through our business areas, parks, and neighborhoods, and also utilizing community volunteers as a conduit between the department and our residents. National Night Out, for example. So it's been pretty positive so far throughout the year on the policing side. I think we've had a lot of positive feedback. It does take time, and it's going to take a little while before we get these officers back on. And Chief will give you an update on kind of where we're staffing. It's a very positive outlook. As you are aware, it's been pretty challenging out there with the recruitment. But thanks to our Deputy Director, Chartrand, and Chief, they've been pretty aggressive at bringing officers in. We'll probably continue to find attrition, but we've gotten to the point where we have the process nailed down, so that when we do have vacancies, we'll fill those as fast as we can. So that'll take a little bit of time, but Chief will give you an update on that. And finally, scope objective for a 5-year strategic plan. Now, we haven't done this yet, but as you know, we hired 1961 Consulting. As Rob Finity, the consultant there, will kind of guide us on our 20-year plan. And part of that is to develop a 3 to 5 year strategic planning process as part of that. So this will be kind of looped into that project. And as you recall, this objective also falls on the 2026 goals for councils too, is to memorialize a plan. So that'll come sometime down the road within the next 6 months as Rob commences the project, actually in 2 days on the 26th when he is in City of Mill Creek here. 2026 this will go pretty quick. I already talked about the DRCC, so we're on our way to getting that going. Mill Creek sub area, back in 2022, I think this project was acknowledged by the advisory committee. As you know, it'll be included in our 2024 comp plan, so you'll hear more about this as our city engineer Carmody mentioned. Mill Creek will be recognized as safest city. We never did identify to what extent or where, so I think maybe it's something that we need to revisit in the beginning of next year and identify whether we want to keep this on there or actually specify to what extent we want to be the safest city. The fourth council goal was Mill Creek, for Mill Creek, including streets, sidewalks, medians, are clean, safe, and well maintained. In the following slide, I'll talk more about encampments and how what we've been doing lately to keep streets, keep everything clean, safe, and well maintained. More of a long term as our engineers.
Hi, Shirley.
As our both city engineers mentioned, we are working on some long-term projects that we're actually moving up. So the studies for, so we'll be moving a little faster on those. And finally, again, the 5-year strategic plan that'll be built into the 6-month project that the 1961 Consulting will be bringing forward shortly. Q3, we were successful and the clerk helped us out in landing a position on the planning commission, one position. The AMB board we filled 2. We still have 1 vacancy on the AMB board to fill, and we have some, I think some applications coming in. So once we get a few more, we'll have council interview those applicants. Let's see, I'll hold off on the police staffing update because Chief White will update everyone on that. As you know, Public Works Department is fully staffed. September is engineering month because we landed 3 in 3 separate weeks, so we're pretty happy about that. One big move is actually our HR manager implementing the leadership training. I'll go more about that in my next report with WCIA because it's a critical report that I'm going to provide in terms of our risk profile. But that leadership training is going pretty well so far. Now, public works side, encampment cleanup. We've been working on encampments across the city. We've hit some key ones. We still have a few to go. There are many out there. We were given this green community. We're continually finding encampments that are. I'll have to go back on that. We're continually finding encampments that are in the trees. And we also had developed an online instruction, kind of a page where our private homeowners and property owners can actually go on and find out how they are supposed to address those encampments on private property. It's a combination of trespassing individuals off property, which police does, and figuring out where their property lines are drawn, making sure that they're looking for the resources they need, the company that would do the cleanups. And so we don't provide the list of companies online, but we actually give them at least kind of a guide on how to do that. So they have some idea of how to address that. This all started with Nature's Landing coming in here and meeting actually with staff. So they actually got us going on putting that together. And so now all residents have an idea of how encampments are dealt with on both private and public property. Some of the things that were kind of alluded to earlier through the engineering presentation was pavement repairs. There's, crack and seal things. The public works team pretty much did the kind of as needed basis on when it pertains to the pavement repairs. Trillium, as Director Todd mentioned, we're pretty much putting band-aids on things until we get that 2025 pavement preservation program going. And so same thing with vegetation management, overhanging limbs. Bill's Green Drive, we did a lot of cleanup there. But we're just pretty much kind of a hit and miss thing, kind of as needed basis. We kind of went around the city and did it where it was most needed. Sidewalk repairs. I think there's some panel repairs on 164th and also some surface water repairs also on 164th. Catch basin inspections took place in Q3. Those actual clean outs will be happening in Q4. That's a pretty big thing. And I already talked about the police presence plan. Communications marketing, one of the RFPs that I have in my inbox right now is website development. So I'll have to review that. And then so we'll, that's be something that's gonna be brought to council pretty soon in terms of moving forward with an actual a vendor that would help us redevelop our entire website. This is gonna be mobile based. It's a very important communication piece moving forward, and so this will be a start of us thinking a little more kind of technology focus moving forward and how we communicate with our residents and our on social. The performance survey is still going as well, and so we'll nail that down at the end of the year and then provide the result at the beginning of 2024 on where we sit with that. As I mentioned, 1961 briefly already, they're actually coming in 2 days to interview all of our staff. Well, not all our staff, I'm sorry, the leadership team. Soon council will get some emails from our clerk's office to schedule, if he hasn't already done that, to meet one-on-one with our consultant. That'll happen in a few weeks. 2 or 3 weeks. So you should be seeing some emails come through. Springbrook, I mentioned in the past about moving forward. I thought I'd move a little faster, but the company got bought out by another firm, if I'm not mistaken. And so they'll be doing one payroll project survey, which is basically an assessment of kind of where we sit with our payroll module, and they'll figure out how to move forward and change management and implementing that new module. And then the same process will probably occur with the other modules that we will be installing as well. ESS, employee self-service, and I think it's a budgeting piece of it, but you've already got a flavor of the budget, of the Biennium budget as well. And so as you know, that this Q4 is when this budget is our mid-Biennium adjustments and property tax levy is moving forward. So I'll talk more about the WCIA annual review in my next report, because that was pretty significant, and it's kind of relates and aligns with kind of my goal for one of my goals for 2024 in terms of mitigating risk. Fall cleanup, Public Works is now doing fall cleanup. As you can see, all the leaves out there. They'll also be doing winter prep. In Q4, we already talked about DRCC moving forward, comp plan. Silvercrest, 3 RFPs. Silvercrest, I think there's some stormwater catch basins, and also I think pavement preservation is the third one. I think that's it for the RFPs. Police substation. When I looked at it a few months back, there was nothing in there, but now I think they're finally putting the kitchen and some final amenities in there, if I'm not mistaken. I think Chief mentioned it's almost done. So I think it'll be done this quarter, the substation. So we can start putting in IT equipment and putting signage on the windows. We'll have 2 assigned police parking stalls right in front. And the security system. Good to know. We've had in the past a lot of issues with, well, a handful of issues where both staff and at least one council member has found either nails or screws in the tires. So at least we'll feel a little more safe here at City Hall. We'll have north and south is where the cameras are located. There's also, they install them over at the library as well. And the last location will be Mill Creek Sports Park. So they're still working on that project. I'm not sure if they'll be done by in Q4, but I think that's what we're projecting. So if there's any questions, no questions, I'll move over to WCIA report.
Councilmember Duque has a question.
I have 3 questions for you. The first is, can you remind me who is on the leadership team that will be interviewed with 1961?
Which members?
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah. Can you remind me the positions or the individuals?
Sure. Myself, Deputy City Manager, Finance Director, City Clerk, Public Works Director, Chief of Police, HR Manager.
Fantastic. And I'm sure that you're going to do, potentially there'll be other interviews or like that, but just for something like this, it feels like your communications team should be, part of it from the beginning, although not, official leadership team, I think. That's an important role, in guidance when it comes to these kind of strategic plan thinking. The next question is, because you mentioned, public, the encampments and putting that together, that list and, or that information. How are we doing with the shopping cart, ordinance?
We need to actually put together a procedure for shopping carts. We've had some police volunteers actually randomly going out picking carts as they see them. I don't know how many are out there. I get a report from chief once in a while about the carts that get picked up. They were at one time, you know, we're having those new recruits pick them up and anyone that helped us out, but we don't have a procedure that we need to actually put together yet. At the time, we didn't have the capacity to do it. We may in the near future. I have to revisit that with Director Todd and the chief to see how we can put that together. I don't know the extent of the cards out there right now. But we can bring that, resurface that.
Thank you. Yeah, if it's more of that kind of a question. And then you mentioned something, sorry, I'm trying to read my own notes. When it was about our retreat, I love that you were connecting things back to our priorities. Thank you so much for being that that guidance for us to kind of keep us in terms of, you know, what we discussed and really focused on in that, because I think sometimes we'll start adding additional items and then forget where we were staying on. But one of the items was, you know, Mill Creek being the safest something or other. And your comment was, we need to revisit, we didn't really determine. I thought I came out of that meeting thinking that you and staff would potentially help us in determining what that would look like, providing us guidance and thinking through. So I would hate for this to like come back to the next retreat and then we still have where we're still thinking this through. And if it's not staff who should be providing us guidance and it should have come from city council, then maybe that needs to be a subcommittee for us thinking through what we meant for that specific thing. If it's not something that, you know, providing us suggestions or ideas about what it might look like. And that's it.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Before we move on to your report, can we have a motion to extend the regular meeting to 9 o'clock, please?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not sure I heard the Mayor Pro Tem.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 6-0. Proceed, please.
All right, the next report is a WCIA report. Had the opportunity to join the board meeting over at CTAC last Friday. WCIA is had a challenging past few years. Looking at their financials, they were in the red in 2022. There were a huge number of claims, and usually it was mainly the big claims over the past few years that really put them under in the red. In 2023, they're in the green by about 2 million. So the balance sheet looks strong. The income statement is what was kind of challenging, and they had some challenges, but they brought in some new staff, new partners and board members, and they're actually pretty well set, I think, going into the future. One thing they emphasize is that basically they're not an insurance company. That's something that you kind of think about because they do insurance. They're more like a co-op, but they have members, right? So these members actually contribute to not only paying for certain types of insurance that they source, that they bring in from external parties, but also they emphasize how important it is for all the members to actually mitigate risk as well. And that was one of the focuses of this board meeting, was to explain to all city representatives that we need to do our part in ensuring that from an operational standpoint, that we're actually doing everything we can to keep the risks down in all areas across all of our cities and all of our departments. So one of my key priorities for 2024, one of my 2 priorities, one is employee development. What that includes is actually taking training, WCIA training specifically. a number of times a year for each employee. So whether it pertains to the tasks or your actual job descriptions or how we manage and how we lead our employees. I think a lot of these things will mitigate risk moving forward. Right now, the risk profile, we have essentially, well, we're doing very well from a risk standpoint. The biggest claims that over the past 3 years were employment claims. So coincidentally, I think the leadership team's goals moving forward in terms of developing employees and making sure that we're mitigating risk in those areas is something that we're going to focus on. And so some little bit of history. It wasn't, I think 1994 is when the city of Mill Creek actually had about $1 million in payouts from risk. No, those years up until about 2016, it was pretty flat. So past 4 years were pretty challenging, but I think now we're back to kind of that flat line, and it's a pretty general level of costs in terms of what claims actually we're paying out right now. So, but overall, we're doing very well, and I think we have to hand it to the staff and kind of what we're moving on so forth. But to do that, we have to be really prudent in how we both manage our employees and how we work across the city. Plaintiffs and attorneys are getting very creative nowadays. There are many situations that they give examples where it may seem there are things to code. For example, those bollards, those big bollards that are used to keep vehicles out of certain areas. Well, there was one next to a path, a bicycling path. It was to code, had a reflector on top. It was all the code. A bicyclist hit it, got paralyzed. But what happened was it was because it was cloudy and it was a kind of a foggy day, and the bicyclist apparently couldn't see that bollard. But even though everything was to code and everything was kosher in terms of the city side, the city was still liable for 20% of the total claims. So nothing's black and white, as you know, 100% one way or black and white the other. So it's just usually is a percentage, and usually when there are some big payouts, it does affect liability. So, and keep in mind, WCIA's limit is 20 million. So anything above that, cities pay out. And that's the end of my WCIA report, WCIA report. And other reports, Mayor. Thank you. The next one is Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, everyone in attendance. I'm happy to report today. As many of you know, the police department has had some issues with staffing as of late. Recently, we've had 5 vacancies with the commission positions within the department. As of yesterday, I have received 5 conditional offers that have been accepted, which would eliminate those vacancies. And we're hoping that everyone is successful in the rest of the testing process for these candidates and fill those vacancies that are in the commission side. We do have 2 vacancies in the records in the non-sworn side, but we have 1 lateral candidate that is a former records and evidence technician from a neighboring city. So we're excited about that. And we have just recently completed our civil service testing for that position as well for entry-level candidates. We have several applicants that are on that list, and we'll be starting our oral boards at the end of this month. So we're really close to becoming full staff. So we're really excited about it. And that's the end of my report. If there's any questions.
Councilmember Allison.
Of the 5 that you have contingent offers, are they laterals or a mix of laterals and entry level?
All are entry level.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Next.
Director Todd.
Yeah, I'll give a quick report given the time. DRCC, the city manager mentioned it earlier. We're gonna have a kind of a refreshed kickoff this Friday with the team. We've got a lot of staff have changed since we originally wrapped this up with council before we took a respite during our annexation talks. We got Karen Reed is going to be back on board with us. Brand new engineer, Miriam Sultani, you've not met yet, is going to be on our team. She's a resident of Mill Creek. It's kind of fun to have her be able to do that up close. Justin and Jody are going to be on the team. And then we're going to have a couple of people from the Bruce D's Associates team out there with us Friday. So we're going to go get a chance to get people feet on the grounds and really sense the things that, as you remember, we had the exercise on the felt boards. It was easy for people to put big flat things on big flat pieces of felt. Well, the reality is there's wetlands and there's grade changes that make it more difficult than the exercise we drug you through a couple of years ago. And so we're going to be taking a look at what they've done already in terms of some high level site assessment features there, some high level needs analysis that they've done, and really kind of start working on drafting that community engagement plan. We have a rough list of more than 60 different groups or individuals that we think would be advisors in various fashions into our planning process, including all of you and our boards and commissions. I think it's really important that we get good input from the people who know the community best, not just from our city's history, but the people who are populating today and in the future. So looking forward to kicking that off on Friday. We're hoping for sunny weather, and we'll give you more reports as we go. And of course, they'll be coming back to council. Many of you are new since we've gone through this as well. So we will be engaging council on that as well in the next few months. Thanks.
Any questions? Keep chugging right along.
All right, I'll make this quick. So for ARPA, for the different park projects, we had 300,000 that we had discussed putting toward the different recommended park projects from the Parks Board. At this point in time, we are waiting on confirmation of some grant funding before I can officially give you numbers for ARPA recommendations, but we are looking into those different projects still behind the scenes.
Cool. This is just a quick trunk or treat reminder that it is on Tuesday, October 31st from 6 to 8. The street is going to start a closure between 3 p.m. and 8:30. We have worked with Waze and Google Maps, so they're working these closures into their maps so people don't get surprised. So the road's going to be closed between Spirit Halloween and Starbucks. We've got about 25 trunks, including the bookmobile from Snow Owl Library, South County Fire, Mill Creek Food Bank, plus some great trunks from Amazon Safeway and several other different really small businesses, which is pretty cool. We haven't done this since, or I've never done this, but the city hasn't done this since 2019, I believe. So this is completely new since we're combining Treats on Main and Trunk or Treat. So trunks are actually going to be open to the road. So they're going to pull in, open the road. They'll have 2 lanes of traffic to travel. If everybody remembers City Hall North in the past, it was super crowded, dark, and scary. So those of you that are on social media can't answer this, but who has a guess on how much candy we're giving out?
In pounds or numbers of pieces?
Number.
10,000.
21,000. 15,000.
You guys see, let's see, 18,000. So pretty cool.
The dentist will be happy in this.
Yeah. Stellar is one of our main sponsors, and
Of course.
they're doing a buyback program. But this year we're going to have MC Chris Jones again doing the spooky music and stuff. Our main sponsors, Stellar, Town and Country's donating, I think, about 6,000 pieces of candy for us, which is great. We've got the Yabs helping us. We've got our Jurassic Park theme. We're decorating our arborist big black box. They'll have to walk in. We've got 3 bigger than life dinosaurs. And 11 days after that is going to be Vets Day, which we haven't done a back-to-back thing like this before, because no Halloween last year and no Vets Parade the year before that. So this is going to be chaotic, but fun. So any questions?
Thanks, Scott.
Good evening, council. Again, this is just a brief overview or status report of our financial report and our investment as well. So The economic indicators remain steady. The CPI was at 3.7 as national average, as well as our unemployment rate for the state of Washington also stayed at 3.6%. Consumer confidence, though, dropped due to the uncertainty of the auto industry strikes and the potential federal government shutdown. But now we are also anticipating the potential impact of the developing wars or conflict in Israel and Hamas. Also, our federal funds rate remained at 5.25% to 5.5%. So our benchmark for through September of 2023 is about 3.7 of our biennium, and our general fund, both revenues and total expenditures are below that. Although our revenues came in higher than our expenditures, we have about $368,000 more in revenues than our period expenditures. Also, our general fund expenditures is about $8 million, which is comprises of salary and benefit about 63% or 5 million. And the M&O is about 36%, and then our capital items expenditure at 1%. For our investment report, we through quarter ending September 30, the excess surplus cash that we have is together is about 42 million, of which about 88% is invested in LGIP. And then 9.5 to US agency notes and about 2.4% to US treasuries. Our interest to date that we've earned with LGIP runs about 1.2 million, and that's an average of 5.086% versus 1% in 2022 for the same period. Also, our US treasuries and security agencies, the average interest that we've earned is about 2.5% versus 1.5 in 2022. And the year-to-date interest that we've earned that was transmitted to our checking account is about $123,000. For that quarter, we have two activities. There was a maturity of one note, which is a Federal Farm Credit Bank. We received 1 million in proceeds. We turned around and made a purchase of Federal Home Loan Bank with a maturity date for March of 2025. And just to note that the interest rate that matured was at 0.16%. And then when we bought the new investment, the new interest is about 4.625%. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Any questions? I'm not seeing any other staff reports?
No other reports, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, I have just 4 quick things. I attended with Councilmember Steckler the Snohomish County Cities Dinner on last Thursday, the 19th. Well attended, spirited discussion after a presentation by the PSRC on the new requirements we're going to be grappling with on the housing element of the comprehensive plan. Participated in a snow track virtual forum on transportation issues in the county with the mayors from Linwood, Arlington, Stanwood, Bothell, Mukilteo, and I think that was all of us. I think there's 6 of us. And then the mayor's meeting last week that's organized by Mayor Naring out of Marysville. More discussion on House Bill 1110. I think there's a lot of alongs from the cities. I brought up our legislative agenda and the item that we've identified, and we're not alone in the concerns over how 1110 is going to be implemented. The other thing that was discussed, and that is not for discussion tonight, but I'm interested to hear from Chief more about flock cameras. There's a lot of discussion of cities that are using those to monitor the entrances to their cities. And so I'd just be interested in hearing a little bit more about those, not tonight, but. And then finally, I will be passing the gavel for our next meeting to Mayor Pro Tem, as I will be on vacation first week in November. So Mayor Pro Tem, any report tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a report. I'll start off with what I'm going to be doing this week. So everybody knows I will be filling in for the mayor tomorrow night for the SCT meeting. They're going to have Director Ryan is going to be there talking about the airport master plan. So I'm interested in learning a little bit more about that and seeing if there's anything that I can bring back to us. I'll report back that may be relevant and may affect us with our future comp plans. Also on Friday at, I believe it's 4:30, I'll be doing a ribbon cutting it's really a grand opening for Pier Bar of Mill Creek. They're reopening over in the farm over close to the Rare Society site. So if anybody wants to come out and join us, that'd be great. And I'll circle back. I went with Councilmember Duque and Councilmember Paddock and members of staff to the domestic violence luncheon. And as you know, October is Domestic Violence Month, and it was a really good service. I think maybe it needs to come with little warnings to people in the future, but it was really impactful to hear the stories that were shared and honor the lives of those who were lost to domestic violence in our city, or in our, well, not our city, but in the whole county. I think it's really important that we get out information for domestic violence. And so if anybody's listening tonight, the helpline number is 425-252-2873. And hopefully we will put that in the minutes as well. I noticed as I listened to the stories, it really brought home something I've been talking with one of my friends about a few weeks ago, that I think we need to do a better job of making sure that members in the community who may be going through domestic violence come in contact with information. I've been really happy that we have had domestic violence services at our parks events, the Party in the Parks. I noticed that they had booths there because we need to be out so that women who need this information will come in contact with it. And it's really important for them to come in contact with information, because often they're isolated and they need to know that what they're being told is not who they are, that there is help, they can get out, and that there are resources available for them. And the more ways that we can have information out in the community where they will run into it, the better for them. So thank you. And that's my report.
Councilmember Cavalieri.
Thanks, Mayor. Real brief. Just to the police chief and to the police department, I've, as you know, been out there the last couple of months, but the last couple of weeks, probably the last month or so, I've gotten some great feedback on the traffic control methods that have been used, that people are seeing speeders getting stopped, speeders getting ticketed, and of course warnings as well, but it is noticed and it's welcomed. Second is, as I love the idea of getting as many advanced trespass warnings as we can with our private residences. When we get a couple of drones in the air, I think that we'll be able to stay ahead of the curve instead of playing whack-a-mole 24/7 like we're constantly doing. Third is, I was listening to the presentations tonight, and normally, instead of putting out fires, we were talking about proactive policies going forward from Public Works and Parks and Engineering and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice to take a little bit of a breather and kind of a victory lap regarding the hiring of personnel here. So good job to everybody involved there. And lastly, to many of my friends who are Indian and Indian American, beginning their celebration of Diwali, I wish them a blessed and happy time of year for their celebration. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
Councilmember Steckler.
Two quick updates. First of all, a happy note. Well, both are a happy note. Report on last Saturday, we had our shredding event, the City of Mill Creek shredding event. I think this is our 5th or 6th year that we've done this, where we provide free shredding of personal financial data to our citizens. We had well over 300 cars come through to get their donations shredded. We know that because we ran out of little bookmarks for people to let them know that they had come through. We raised a little over, with some last minute donations from some Kiwanians, a little over $1,700 through the donations, which is more than going to fund 2 scholarships for 2 high school seniors this year. That's a big success, along with the fact that we helped a lot of citizens get rid of some very confidential data that they wanted to get rid of and obviously at no cost because donations were purely voluntary. A big thank you to everyone, especially from the city of Mill Creek, the staff from Mill Creek. Big thank you to Scott Harder, who is our main contact for all of his help in providing posters and communication and last minute signage and no parking signs to make sure we had a place for put the truck. Our Mill Creek Chamber of Commerce, who was a co-sponsor and also came to the event and helped to shred events. Barb Heidel and her Citizens Patrol staff, who helped to direct traffic. The Kiwanis Key Club volunteers, the high school kids who came and helped us to crush down the cardboard, and of course the old Kiwanis Club volunteers like myself who were there to help to shred up all of that. It was a true community event and a positive thing for our city. The mayor mentioned the PSRC dinner that I went to last Thursday and with him. We both met up with each other, which was a nice surprise. And this was a kind of an eye opener. I saw just a few bullets that, we've all been hearing about Vision 2050. And when I see the whole Puget Sound region coming together, it's really affecting more of Snohomish County than anything else. One of the bullets that got me was the Puget Sound region is going to grow by 2050 by 1.5 million people. 1.5 million sounds, I don't know how much that is. Well, that's the equivalent of adding 2 more Seattles by 2050. So we're going to have 2 more Seattles within the Puget Sound region. Well, that doesn't sound too great when you think about the #1 area most of them are going to go is Snohomish County. King's gone, Pierce is not as, Snohomish is where they're going. Snohomish is where they're going. So the huge influx of population, and really 2050 is more not just housing, it's also jobs and revenue. And so a lot of these cities are talking about how we're going to have the revenue to support our cities and our housing and the jobs for all these people that are going to be coming through, because just providing jobs for a lot of them is an issue. Like with Mill Creek, we're a great little bedroom community. We don't have a lot of jobs, but there was a lot of great ideas about providing housing to meet resident needs, increasing access to home ownership, leveraging the growth near transit. So if you're going to provide the growth, you're going to provide the housing, put it where the transit is, because a lot of these people don't have cars or can't get on the roads or won't be able to get on the roads. Create and sustain long-term funding sources to create and preserve housing for low-income and unhoused residents. You're going to have to provide it. So where are you going to get the funding to do that? And one idea that got a lot of interesting play at the tail end, and then afterwards, when we were starting to break down into small groups, one person from, I can't remember which city it was, talked about senior housing villages, which is a big solution more on the East Coast, Sunbelt areas, Phoenix, Palm Springs, that kind of area. Senior housing villages, which promote downsizing to provide a home for seniors, which promote downsizing, which open up housing, because one of the big problems we have is housing isn't there. And building housing is difficult because you don't have areas to build housing. So people are looking at multi-purpose housing, when in fact if we can provide a home for seniors, they could downsize. And these multi-purpose senior housing villages can put a lot of housing into a small footprint by giving them a small little Rambler type home with maybe a single car garage, which is all they really need. And they've been very successful in spreading out from the Sun Belts into some of the other areas because of a need to provide a downsize. So it was really an interesting dinner. I was pleasantly surprised. That's the end of my report.
Councilmember Allison.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so first, a public service announcement. Ballots should be in our mailboxes or inside our houses by now. So voting is your superpower. So everybody needs to exercise their right to vote. And then we had a meeting last Thursday, the legislative committee, with a representative from Susan Delbenny's congressional office. Her name was Rachel Alger. And we were able to share our legislative priorities with her. And we were also able to learn of some programs that I know I wasn't aware of. And our deputy City manager took an action to follow up on some of those grant opportunities. We're right on the edge of the federal government being shut down, but they're still running some workshops so people can understand how the process is going to work when money is allocated to some of those funds. So that was a very good first meeting, and now we've developed a relationship that we can foster with that office and have a little bit more connection to the federal government side of the equation. And who knows how that can wind up benefiting the city in the future. And that was all I had to report.
Councilmember Decay.
Ditto to everything Councilmember Allison said about the Ledge Committee. I wanted to share that the Mill Creek Chamber of Commerce is having a board retreat on November 7th. So I'm excited to share what their planning session and direction is. I also wanted to just repeat something that was sent to me from the Snow Isle Libraries, that the Snohomish County Legal Services free legal clinic for qualifying low-income residents in Mill Creek Library is wide open for November 20th. There are 4 30-minute consultations available, as well as a couple of spots on the waiting list. This is something that's really usually booked out way ahead of time. And so when I saw this, I wanted to just make sure to flag it. It's they have a lawyer in the library free legal clinic is what it's called. And so for those low-income residents who need those services, I wanted to flag. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it brings us to audience communication. Anyone in the audience in chambers? Anyone online like to address the council? Mr. Nelson, name and city of residence, please, in 3 minutes.
Will Nelson, Mill Creek, Washington. Very exasperating meeting tonight. Zoom does not seem to be working too well. But anyway. I'm with Vince Cavallari on the city keeping the opioid settlement for itself. In the way of interest, we've had 4 homes sold in the Red Cedar subdivision in the last 2 months, all slightly under $1 million, which is probably equal to all the homes that have sold in here the last 10 years. So I still tend to disagree with some of the state's projections on the economy going forward. I don't know what's happening in other subdivisions, but we've certainly had a good amount of sales in ours. Regarding your budget hearing, I didn't mention it before, but I kind of wonder why we need any kind of a tax increase since our cash reserves have gone from a little over 6 million to a little over 9 million. Anyway, end of comments. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we need to recess to executive session to discuss the status of collective bargaining negotiations. No action will be taken. We estimated need about 10 minutes. That clock is wrong. It is about 9 minutes till. So can we have a motion to extend the regular meeting to 9:10?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so the meeting is extended till 9:10. We will be in executive session until 9:02.
Oh, yeah, it was interesting, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah.
Only a flash forward. Oh, this. It looked like it was. I just really was scratched.
At 9:02 without objection, council extended the executive session until 9:10.
Oh, there we go. Adrian, you there?
Yes.
Okay, the council concluded its executive session at 9:06 PM. No action was taken. And with that, we have nothing further on our agenda, so we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:07 PM. Reconvene in a couple weeks.
Thank you.